All right, we are going to turn this Dreadnought into this, and this. All right, here we go. Starting off with a black matte base undercoat, just spraying my way through here, making sure that you cover all the areas. You want to make sure you get that spray paint right down to the cracks, and for this particular style of painting, the matte black is going to be really essential. It just fills in the shade into all those gaps and crevices, and honestly just gives it that kind of darker feel in all the joints and everything. Personally myself, this is what I like to use for pretty much all my painting. It just makes life easier, and on above average 40k, we're all about that. Alright, so we're starting off with Iron Breaker dry brush. Yeah, a nasty dry brush. Another one. So basically all we do here is get this dry brush, and we're just gonna flick, work our way over all those raised edges, raised bumps. Don't worry if it looks a little bit patchy the first time round, that is totally fine. As you work your way through, what you can do obviously is just go back and just rebrush over again those panels. And guys, when you're doing this, you want a really thin amount of paint on your brush. Reason being is because then it just makes it much cleaner, a much nicer silver overcoat over the top of the Dreadnought and the Grey Knight Terminator inside. So you want to just flick, and just getting over all those raised bumps, raised edges. And honestly, this is a very satisfying part, and immediately once you've done this, you'll see that your Dreadnought starts to really pop, really come to life. I remember doing this, going from the black just base coat to the dry brush, even just with the Iron Breaker, and my wife was like, damn babe, that's so cool. So honestly, this technique really is a hack. It just makes life so easy. And for myself personally, I like to start with the bigger panels when there's a little bit more paint on the brush, and then as that paint starts to fade away, then I work my way over to the warrior himself, the Terminator himself, who is the pilot of the Dreadnought. And then because it's a lighter brush, it's a smaller model, so it just works much nicer, and you can see there. And now flipping over to the back, same deal here, lots of little raised edges, just making sure that you're not filling in your paint into any of those crevices. And like I said, you can just do multiple layers here. This is a very therapeutic process. You want to just chip your way away at it and just keep flicking over, and then go back, redo any areas that you feel should have a cleaner look. Some of the more pronounced panels, obviously you want them to be a bit cleaner. You don't want it to be too dark, but at the same time, don't worry too much about this, because you will be coming back later on with Grey Knight Steel and going over all those panels, so it will look clean in those areas regardless. But this just gives you that kind of darker undertone, that war-torn, battle-hardened metal look. Okay, and the gun, I try not to put too much onto it, mainly just that raised ridge on the top of the gun and the front kind of barrel of the gun there. The rest of it, I'm just kind of lightly flicking over, lightly covering it. And again, you know, this style of painting, it makes your paint go far. It lasts a long time, and you know, you will be able to cover a lot of ground, and aesthetically it will look really good. But honestly, this is one of the most important parts, and I would say that, so what you want to do is get a good amount of paint on the brush, and then just keep flicking it onto a piece of paper tool. It's just a very light amount. You'll be surprised how it turns out, how little paint you actually need. Grey Knight Steel is the next coat, and for this one we're just going to go over all those panels. So all the joints, the kind of you know, the more deeper, kind of darker areas of metal, I'm just leaving that with the Iron Breaker. But this part here, all the raised areas, all those panels, I'm just doing a nice coat of Grey Knight Steel. This is just my own personal preference. Everyone's different, everyone's got their own style and taste. I try not to go like too crazy with this. As you can see here, I'm just kind of flicking it over so it still retains a bit of that nice iron breaker undertone. And this is just a really nice way to get that nice Grey Knight steel glow, that kind of bluey tinge to the armor without having to spend too much time, but still comes out looking really, really sick. So you can see here, just flicking my way through, covering over those panels, and it's also an opportunity for you to just kind of tidy up the model. And then this is how it should be looking. Once you've got all of that taken care of, you should have the Grey Knight steel on the more pronounced raised panels of armor, and you got that iron breaker in the crevices and the joints. Then I'm going to use a bit of Drakenhof Nightshade. Personally, I just really like this. I just kind of flick it through all those joints, panels, all the little crevices, any area that you feel like could do with a bit of shade. And yeah, don't be too fussed about this. Just kind of flick your way through. It just adds a nice little subtle layer of detail. Then we're going into the Aura Armor Gold. So this one is a layer paint. I just really take my time. This is just the beginning of me applying this. I just do lots of layers, and I just try to kind of flick it over those pronounced letters and you know, those emblems and the shoulder pads on the Terminator, etc, etc. So this is your time, and don't worry too much if you do drop a bit of gold paint down into the cracks in between. Don't worry if it fills in, because we are going to come back later with Earthshade. Alright, now we've got Retributor Armor. This is a darker gold. I personally like to use this for the weapons. So you can see here just those, just like the handle, that upper handle of the weapon. I just paint that Retributor Armor, and it just has like a darker tinge, and that's just a way for you to kind of distinguish between the weapon gold and then the like armor gold. Okay, now it's time for Liquid Talent Agrax Earthshade. Just yeah, don't be sparing with this. Apply a good amount, keep the brush moving as you can see, as I am, and then just keep going until you feel like it's at a nice level. You want to just try and fill that earth shade right into all those cracks. And like I said, if there's any areas where you did splotch the gold in between the letters, this is your time to correct it. If it's still not up to where you want, then obviously you can go back and reset, do it again. But yeah, normally this will be good enough. And then boom, look at that, starting to come to life. You got the gold in the panels all sorted, Grey Knight steel, iron breaker, looking pretty solid. Getting there. A lot of people, when they see this, they'll go, damn, that looks so sick. All right, moving on to the sword. So starting with Ultramarine Blue contrast paint. It's just personally what I found works well. I just kind of apply it on like this. Sorry if it's a bit out of focus, but yeah, boom, just like that. And then it kind of gives that nice like navy bluey darky tinge, because obviously the black undercoat, and it's going to look something like this, something like this. Oh yeah, and then obviously it's going to dry, and then I like to use this Imric Blue, and I just kind of work my way down and around the edges, just trying to use the side of the brush to get that nice edge highlight. And then at the top of the blade, I like to make it look kind of like an energy burst, or you know, like the top of this like shining power Nemesis Force weapon sword. So yeah, just using the edge of the blade, just flicking away and just getting that nice clean look. And this just helps to bring the sword to life, make it pop. Yeah, this is just the way that I do it. I know I've seen a lot of tutorial videos where people do the like Games Workshop way, and I think it does look cool, I'm not gonna lie, but I like this way. It's satisfying for me, it's time efficient, it still looks really cool in my opinion. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about it. And then I go into Blue Horror, which is like a really kind of light whitish blue, just a super light blue. And then I just really finely, edge highlight my way down like so. And this again just really makes it pop. You just want to take your time with this. Use the edge of the blade of the brush, edge of the brush to go along the edge of the blade, and just following down the lines of the blade, I think, is a really good tip. So try not to go sideways on it, you know, see how those lines are nice and like in a straight line. And then I just finished things off with a bit of technical soulstone blue, just to give it that kind of crystallized, like unearthly alien metal divine, whatever you want to call it, nemesis force weapon glow. So yeah, that's the way that I do it. I feel like it looks cool. I'm happy with it. It's got a nice glimmer to it, and then you can see that edge highlight there over the top, the shades of blue. Boom. Then we're going to go onto the weapon. So we got Wazdaka Red as the base coat on the gun. I'm not super good with the names of all the guns, but you guys can maybe tell me in the comments. Is this a silencer or is it a side cannon? I think it's a side cannon. So yeah, sorry I forgot. But yeah, I did research it and I did do some homework, and I was like, yeah, this is the best gun for what the purpose that I want when I do battle my brother. I'm like, yeah, this is good. I need to have something with a bit of oomph. So yeah, I did end up going with the side cannon, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. So just really carefully, just working your way through. Decent amount of paint on the brush and just kind of keep it flowing. And then I like to go for an edge highlight with Mephiston Red, and then Evil Sun Scarlet, just kind of working my way out, and then finishing in the corners with a bit of Wild Rider Red, and it looks like that. But I also did the same thing on that emblem, the heraldry shield, and then I did a dry brush of Sigmate, and then another layer over the top of Auric Gold, and a bit of Agrax Earthshade, and then boom. If you see that shield there, probably get a better look soon. That's that. It's just a simple, easy way. Honestly, the red, the gold, they do really pop and stand out. You can see the gun there a little bit better, those highlights. It just makes it stand out a little bit more. Probably do a bit more, but yeah, honestly, it looks cool enough for me. I'm happy with that. And then there's that emblem, the heraldry, and it just looks cool. You know, it's an easy way to do it. Sorry about my camera work there. Kind of get the gist of it though. It looks cool. It's simple, straightforward. It really stands out. It contrasts that silver armor so nicely. So yeah, all in all, I really like this way of doing it. So that's sick. Done and dusted. Look at that. And then voila, you're pretty much done. Obviously just your other standard Grey Knight stuff, you know. So I just use Wrathbone on all the scriptures or parchments, and then just shade of Agrax Earthshade over the top. Boom, there you go. And then any books, I just use Wazdaka Red and a little bit of Mephiston Red around the edges, and that looks great. And then voila, you got your Grey Knight. Oh, and then for the eyes, little hack, I just use that Soulstone Blue. So when you dry brush, the eyes are pretty much done, and then boom, you just put that Soulstone Blue. And here we go, the grand reveal. Oh, look at that. It looks like the light is kind of shining down on that sword, and then yeah, just coming round, you'll see our warrior. Boom. Look at that. Doesn't that look cool? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Simple, easy, straightforward, but looks dope at the end and gives you a sick Dread Knight, ready for the tabletop, ready to slay some demons, slice through some foe. Yeah, awesome. If you like that, subscribe, like, and I will catch you on the next video.